Hey everyone, it's Megan from Gingerbread Mama, and today's video is a little deep. I'm addressing my abusers. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Please consider joining my community by hitting the subscribe button below. If you like my videos, please feel free to give this one a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And today I am talking about a pretty heavy topic. Today I'm talking about domestic violence and domestic abuse. Some people feel that abuse is always physical, that it is hitting, that it is violence, that it is, black eyes and bruises everywhere. And yes, that's violence, that's domestic abuse. It's not the only kind. And sometimes when you are in one of those relationships, when you get out of it, you jump into another one. And because it's not as bad and it may not be physically violent, you stay. Because it's not as bad as the last one. Now, let me also point out that women can be just as abusive as men. And I've met a lot of women that are verbally abusive, but not physically. And that is just as much, if not more damaging than punching and hitting and, hurting someone physically. So my thoughts are that everyone says, well, why don't they leave? Well, just get out. Well, newsflash, it's not that easy. In abusive relationships, whether it's physical violence or not, they beat you down to the point where you do not feel like you are worthy of leaving them, that you are not good enough for anyone else or even to be alone. And so I'm going to share a little bit about my own abuse in hopes that it helps someone out there. If you are watching this and you are in any of the types of relationships that I am about to describe, please realize that you are not alone, and that yes, I know it is not easy to get out of those relationships, but it is possible. And as soon as you recognize that you are worth it, that you are worth life, that you are worth love, I want you to find your way to get out. There are so many resources now for victims of domestic violence, and I will link a few of them below. Just know that I know that it's not easy to get out. I know that people get mad at you for not getting out sooner. People start to blame you and say that it's your fault because you didn't leave when they said, well, get out of there. So I wanted to use this video almost as therapy for myself, but also for those of you that have been through it, that are watching, and just take a minute to address my abusers. I'm not going to name them. They don't deserve my voice on their name. But part of moving past it is forgiveness. I am not saying at all that what they have done to me or what anyone has done to you is okay. But I am saying that it is okay to move past it, and that it is okay to love yourself again. And that the way they made you feel and the way they made you think about yourself is not true. So I, in my life, had 3 abusers. And a lot of people may hear me say that and say, how did she let herself go through that 3 times? She's stupid. They were different. Abuser number 1 is the father of my first child. And I was really young. I was 18 when we met, 19 when I got pregnant. He was older than me, and he made me feel important until I wasn't. And every other girl in his life was important. And I became the back burner. And every time I tried to leave, he would suck me back in. He would sweet talk me. And when I finally got to the point where I had enough, I could not keep going with the yo-yo, the abuse started. He would punch me, he would kick me, he headbutted me in the face. I'm pretty positive that he broke my orbital socket, but I never went to the doctor, so I don't know that for a fact. And he beat me down emotionally to the point that I didn't feel like I was worth it. Anything. Life. And I tried to leave. I'd go home from his house. He didn't have a vehicle. I'd go home and feel safe until he knocked down my door and literally kicked my door in. He'd crawl up on my roof and beat on my window until I thought he was going to break it, so I opened it. There were so many times that he would show up and physically threaten my parents because I was living at home. And sometimes I would just answer him to avoid that. To those of you who are going through that, I'm here for you. I believe you, and I believe you're worth it. You're not worth the violence. You're worth getting away from it. Let me make that clear. But the thing that got me out was my son. Because he had me so beaten down that I felt like I had no escape. I couldn't leave. The police, I had called the police so many times that they finally told me that they were not my personal security and that the next time they heard from me, I'd better be going to the hospital. I had no one to turn to. So when I got pregnant, when I got that positive test, something clicked, and I knew I needed to get out. I needed to get away for the baby. Because I was pretty positive that if I stayed, I would die. But I couldn't allow that to happen to a child. So my why to get out was my son. And we're going to flash forward to the next one because I jumped right into it because I needed that security that I was lovable. So I jumped into another relationship, and a lot of the same verbal abuse was there. I was still being called names. I was still being body shamed, even pregnant. I was pregnant while I was with this second guy, and he would tell me I was fat. First of all, when I got pregnant, I was 110 pounds, and I gained all of 20 pounds during my pregnancy. So it just wasn't even physically possible, but he would tell me that I was fat, and I believed him because I was insecure about my body, about my life, about my pregnancy. And what woman wants to hear that when they're pregnant? They already feel fat, even if they aren't. So things got messy and I got out. And we'll flash forward a few more years to my third. And, a pretty smile and some big brown eyes can mesmerize you and make you think that things are great. And you don't even notice the manipulation that happens until it's too late. And he's caused a wedge between you and your parents. And I moved away from my family because they saw it. They saw that he wasn't good for me, and I wouldn't hear it. I was stubborn and sure that what I was doing was right. And so I left, and I lived with him and his family for a while. Not very long, actually, just a few weeks. But in that time I found out that I was pregnant with my second child, and that made him happy because he claimed that he wanted a child, but I'm pretty sure it was because he knew I was unhappy and wanted to leave, and he felt that that would keep me. Ladies, do not ever allow a pregnancy to keep you in a bad situation. I got out twice while I was pregnant. And I know I sound crazy for allowing myself to get pregnant to these guys that were horrible. But life happens. I can't regret it now because I have two beautiful boys. It is what it is. It happened. It's over. But while I was with him, I stayed after I was ready to leave. And then I found out I was pregnant, and I stayed. And my parents and I fought a lot because how could I let this happen again? And, his family rallied around me a little bit. And I tried so hard to make things work. But when you are used to being manipulated, and then you get out of that, and then you go back to that, it's a little easier to see it when you got out of it for a little bit. So I was able to see just a little bit of what was going on around me, and I could see that he was bullying me, that he was pressuring me to do things I didn't want to do, that he was down-talking me, and that he was making me feel like I was his possession and I was not worth it. I was not worth anything more than what he wanted me for. And for that, I tell you, ladies, if someone is treating you that way, they are wrong. And even if you are pregnant or you have children, you can get out. Love yourself. And if you can't, because I know in those situations it is hard to do, love your children. If you don't have any, love your future children. Find someone or something to give you the fuel to get out. I know it's not easy, but you need to do it for you. You need to do it for your families. Love yourself. Just remember, there's no such thing as a cookie cutter life. Bye-bye.